I've said it once and I will keep on saying it again and again and again because, to be honest, the worst thing is, and I've said this before, people do not realize you have to take your ID to go and vote now in the UK. And it's not just at this local election, it will be at the general election, it will be at local elections, and the general election after that, and after that. As long as this is in place, you will have to take voter ID. And still, people are just not aware of this. And bear in mind, blank out the fact that if you've been watching my channel, you know about this from me. Just think about this for a second. Where else have you seen this advertised? Not a lot. Not a lot at all. And this is what is really worrying. This is what's going to be interesting at this next general election, because as we said just a couple of videos ago about this, a couple of years ago, there was a change about closing the polls early. Now, this approximately disenfranchised about 1,000 people, and they went and overturned this very, very quickly. How many people are going to get disenfranchised from voting about this? And it's going to get to set even worse, because there's a story in here which will shock you. Because one of the things that has been said, well, if you don't have one of these types of ID, you can apply for this unique voter ID, which, bear in mind, you might be hearing about this for the first time from me as well. Because this is something else that has not been wildly encountered. And just picture in your head how many people you think have actually applied to this. And hold that number in your head, because I think the real number is going to shock you. And I've said this, I think this is going to become a big story. I think after local elections, this is going to be a big story. And I think there are a couple of people now starting to pick up on this and starting to wake up to the idea about how after the next local elections, this might be a big story. And then it comes the question of, well, how long is this kept for? Because we did not need this. This rule was completely unnecessary. So, before we go diving into this, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And like I say, please do share this video, because once again, it is important that we get the word out about this. Already, people have missed out on trying to apply for postal votes. I think that has now closed, I think, although there might be a couple of weeks. I think it depends on your local council. Like I say, if not, we'll see. But, and also, please do be aware that there are conservative associations going out to try and harvest postal votes and are maybe being a bit naughty with them. So please do be aware of that as well. That is something that we've heard reported as well. But so, yeah, be aware of that as well. If you are being asked by people to, oh, yes, we'll take your vote, maybe not be, shall we say, fully willing to trust them if they are from a conservative association, given what we've heard from them. But yeah, that's another story for another time. But as always, like I say, please do, again, like I say, links down below, Patreon page, one-off donation page, buy me coffee, etc. They're all down below. Go check those out. And of course, as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help support the channel that way. And of course, on with today's story. So this comes from The Guardian. And like I say, I think the very first time this has sort of been picked up upon about how bad this is going to be. And I think this is going to be a big story, because I have to wonder how many people are not going to get to vote because of this. I think it's going to be an awful lot of people. And I think there's going to be an awful big backlash against this, because this isn't just young people that are going to be affected. It's old people as well, who make up the vast majority of people who do vote on the regular and in local elections as well. So, ministers have faced renewed accusations that the plan to impose mandatory voter ID for voting is a waste of time and resources, after statistics have showed that there was not a single proven case of in-person voter impersonation last year. So remember that, because that'll be an important point for later as well. Meanwhile, other official data has showed a minimum take up of the free official voter documents before the first mass use of ID for local elections in England on May the 4th, where applications for the documents are closing in 3 weeks' time. So remember that. Those applications are closing in 3 weeks' time, and I hope you've already picked a number in your head because this will probably quite shock you when we get to it. So, data from the Electoral Commission has said that in the elections of 2022, which covered local elections in England, Scotland, and Wales, elections to the Northern Ireland Assembly, and a series of mayoral elections in England, and 6 common by elections, there were 7 allegations of personations at polling stations, as the offence is officially known as. There was no action taken by police in any of these cases because there was either insufficient evidence to even proceed or no evidence of wrongdoing, the report found. So even then, there's either no evidence or not enough by the police to actually make this a case. So bear that in mind. So remember, seven allegations. None of them actually proceeded to anything. So there were also 3 allegations of personation involving postal voting, which is not affected by these new ID rules, with 1 still being investigated. So even then, if this ID law is meant to stop people impersonating, as many Conservatives are claiming this is why they're bringing it in, then what about postal voting? What about that? Of course, there were 185 electoral-related offences reporting during 2022 in all, and the majority of them were connected to campaigning rather than voting, with no action being taken in 119 instances. So these statistics do highlight a point made repeatedly by the opponents of voter ID, that it tackles a problem which is almost unknown in Britain, while creating a barrier to voting for an estimated 2 million adults who lack the necessary documentation. Without ID can apply. Those without ID can apply for the free so-called voter authenticity certificate issued by the council, but available via a central government portal. A running tally, and this is where we'll get the number, a running tally for central applications, which will close on the 25th of April, shows that as of Sunday, expected exactly, this is it, this is the number, I hope you're preparing yourselves, that only exactly 37,000 people had applied. 37,000 people, with an estimated 2 million adults who lack the necessary documentation. That is fewer than 2% of the total numbers who lack voting ID. 2 million people who lack that ID, and only 2% have applied. Why? This is not being widely circulated enough. And as I said before, this is going to become a massive issue. This is going to become a massive story, I think, after this next general election. I don't see how they keep this. I really don't. I really struggle to see how they keep this. So older and younger voters are less likely to have applied for the documentation, despite both groups being seen as vulnerable to being put off from voting by these new laws. So far, just 1,361 people aged 75 or older have applied. So around 1,300 people older than 75 have actually applied. That's 3.6% in total, and just 6% of those applicants, over 2,200, all in all, were from under 25s. Labour's deputy leader, Angela Rayner, said the government was clearly failing in their duties to make people aware of the new rules. That is very, very evidently clear. She said, Labour are clear. that voter ID is an expensive, unnecessary policy and the wrong priority at the height of a cost of living crisis. If voters don't have the required photo ID, the easiest way to vote is by signing up for a postal vote. Of course, Northern Ireland has had a long-standing voter ID system introduced owing to historical election abuse by sectarian groups. However, the 4th of May will be the first introduction of such a system in the rest of the UK, which has otherwise just been trialled in a handful of council polls. When asked why the system was being introduced despite the minimal evidence of in-person voter impersonation, bear in mind what I said at the beginning, Rishi Sunak's official spokesperson said, quote, "This is to guard against the potential for wrongdoing in this area of voter impersonation." Meanwhile, remember what we said at the beginning? There was not a single proven case of in-person voter impersonation last year. Remember what we said about the police? 7 accusations. None of them had either insufficient evidence or there was no evidence of wrongdoing. Why are we having this law then? It's pointless, but like I say, please do share this video. It needs to be shared because people need to be made aware because, again, the government certainly aren't doing it. And when councils have asked, do we have, can we have some extra money to help promote this? The government has gone, no. So this is going to be, I think, after the local elections, I think this is going to be a massive story. I really, really do. This is going to be a big story. I don't see how it is, and I think the numbers are going to be massive. I think they are. And then the question becomes, why on earth do we even keep this? And then this becomes an easy slam dunk for Labour, just saying, well, when we're in power, we'll take this rule away. Because, again, it's just completely unnecessary. So, like I say, please do share this video because I think it does provide something important public service. Because, again, not a lot of people still know or even realize you have to have ID from upcoming elections, from this local election onwards, so long as this law is in place. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, again, links to my Patreon page, the one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can all buy me coffee, the YouTube thank you button, the Pony Club down below as well. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.